All right, I will start off by saying I found your channel before you did reactions.
Yeah, that's the olden days.
Cause
I got roped into reactions. That wasn't my
yeah,
plan.
cause so when I found your channel, somebody sent me something comedy thing with something to do with Instagram. I remember.
Instagram was one of the first platforms I uploaded to.
Yeah, and so I remember someone sending me something from that, and then I found your YouTube channel a little later and subscribed to you, and forgot. And then you started blowing up on reactions with epic rap battles of history. And then I was like, huh, who's this dude? And then I went and I was like, wait, I'm subbed to this guy. Wait, what? And I was so just confused.
Yeah, I started on TikTok was the first platform I uploaded to, oddly enough, back in like 2018.
Fuck.
So I started on TikTok and I did like a mashup. One of the first things, or probably the first thing I ever uploaded is We Skeem. I knew what We Skeem was going to be, but I didn't really have the content yet. And so one of the first things I ever uploaded was a mashup of John Arbuckle dancing to that remix of you reposted in the wrong neighborhood.
I remember this video.
And so that's probably what you saw on Instagram or whatever.
Pretty sure that's what I was sent.
And then like I released my first We Skeem song. I think just as clips on Instagram, and I released it on YouTube. February 2018 was my YouTube debut, or 2019 maybe February. Yeah, it was February 2019 probably was my YouTube debut because I think it was August 2018 when I was doing the TikTok goofs. But yeah, We Skeem was just like
an idea.
I've done a lot of music, and I hadn't done a lot of solo projects in that time period. I was just getting back into it. I thought, we had the MGK and Eminem stuff going on, and there's just a lot of goofy stuff going on in rap. And
it was a fun time.
You know, it'd be fun. It's like, what would be fun? But get a whole anonymous persona and speak unpopular opinions about stuff, and just have a good time. And that's kind of like what spawned We Skeem.
So how long ago was the Instagram video then? What year was that?
That would have been like August 2018.
Okay, so that's when I originally found you. So, which brings me to our official kind of introduction. Welcome, everybody. This is Desk Talk. I have one of the coolest and easily most recognizable people in reaction, mostly when he's wearing a mask.
I don't think I'm recognizable like this.
That's true. Dude, people are not used to seeing you like this. When you are wearing your mask, though, you are one of the most recognizable people, if not the most recognizable person on the internet who does reactions, for sure, because of the mask. You have one of the most diverse catalogs when it comes to both reactions and your own music that you have made, which also just fascinates me because you're one of the few artists who actually takes time and does other genres and explores himself within music, which I personally attach more to an artist than anybody else, because it's just, I don't like when somebody sits in one sound for their entire career. I think it's boring. But
I mean, I think that, some people just find it and they stay in it, but it's definitely not my personality.
That's the same way I am. And I always have respected you because you are one of the few people on the internet who is never afraid to speak your mind and speak your truth, unapologetically be yourself, and just kind of go against the grain, even if it's, telling nerdcore rap that they suck. So,
listen, nerdcore's got more beef with me than I have with them, to be fair.
They took it more seriously than you did, for sure.
They've always taken it more seriously than me. That's
because
what
they think they're more serious.
Well, I mean, the whole thing that I criticize them for is for taking themselves too seriously, and it gets really ironic when I criticize them for that and they take it super seriously. It's not that deep. You're rapping about anime. Like, if that's what you like, that's what you like. But when you try to make it like this is deep, this is the stuff, I'm like, maybe, go outside for a little bit.
True.
That's just my advice.
Where I stand with it, and I'm almost like every single thing you said on the original video that you talked about it and like broke down your feelings about it. I remember watching that and being like, these are all the things that I have thought and never said out loud.
That's kind of been the whole thing with We Skeem, is saying the quiet part out loud. A lot of my takes are controversial in that people know they're not supposed to agree with them. But I tend to discover on the private side of the internet, where people are in DMs or people are interacting in real life, that what I say is typically a lot more of a popular opinion. It's just not one that people are allowed to have. And that was kind of always the mantra of We Skeem, is to just be honest and be real, which, you know, the mask makes that ironic, but it is what it is. You know, there's two versions of me that people see. There's the more real version of me, this version, the emo kid with his painted nails, a touch of the tism. That's like my actual personality. And then We Skeem, I've always said, is like a very exaggerated version of myself. It's a very unfiltered, satirical take on my own thoughts, honestly, and thoughts that other people have. And it's always interesting to see people struggle with that distinction, or people who still don't even know what I look like, even though it's been out there I've been face revealed longer than I was ever anonymous at this point. And still a lot of people, just because the mask, like you said, is so recognizable, they haven't put two and two together that I'm the same person. But yeah, it's, you know, it's a character. And I think a lot of people get lost in how satire works and all that. And I tried to, for a while, to break that down by having videos on my channel that I wasn't masked up and was just like talking to people. But I've since thought better of that, just to keep it the character. When I want to be without a mask, it's usually somewhere else. Most of the videos with me not masked were either re-uploaded to different channels or put unlisted, not privated, because I want people to still watch it if they like it. But just, you know, I'm like, listen, We Skeem, fine. It's the character, it's the mask, so that it's less confusing. And if you want to see, like, me as Rob, that's my name, like, in other places, you find me other places like that.
You have this persona that exists and is, yes, a part of you, but is not the real you. And the real you comes out, like, when you're live streaming, when you're making your music, when you're doing these other things, and you get to see this kind of, like, almost peek behind the curtain where that character doesn't fully exist. Of course, the character comes through.
I think, you know, in live streams and stuff, I'll phase in and out, you know? It kind of depends on the mode. Sometimes you'll catch me phasing into the Skeem persona. And, you know, persona is the only real word for it. I always say there is a bit of truth to it, but it is a parody of myself, I would say, is probably the best way to describe it. It's a parody of myself and others, but there are, like, deeper intentions behind it.
Which is cool as shit. So one of my questions for you is, where did the idea for the mask come from?
Like, aesthetically or conceptually?
Both.
So I guess conceptually, you know, at the time of We Skeem, I had a fairly high-end corporate job, so I didn't really want these opinions to be shared and linked back to me. You know, because corporate, you're not allowed to have opinions.
Yes, true.
So the anonymity really had to do mostly with my job, as far as that was the only part where the anonymity was for myself, because I don't really care if people know who I am, obviously. But there was a little twinge when I was just starting, like, maybe I shouldn't just go advertising, you know, all of this. But really it was more driven by the aesthetic of it, and by the fact that I wanted people to not judge it based on it being me. I wanted people to judge it based on what it was. And I figured the best way to do that was by removing myself. So it started out as a mask, and then it turned into a morph suit, because I was like, I don't want any semblance of me involved in the music I'm going to make. And I kind of got all of the concepts I wanted in that veil of anonymity out in the first few years, which is why I did the face reveal, because I was like, all right, that part of why the masks exists is done. Has kind of turned into a gimmick, and I never wanted it to be a gimmick, so I was like, all right, I'll just show people my face so they know I'm not, like, hiding at this point. But there was purpose behind it, to be very anonymous, and so people could see themselves in me instead of seeing who I was. And then, you know, aesthetically, it was just kind of inspired by a mix of Michael Myers, the ghost face from Scream. Those were kind of the two main influences, and Slender Man. You know, that's where you get, like, the suit from.
I was going to say, my ghost face mask is behind me, but it's not, because the cat threw it off of the fucking dresser.
Damn cats.
But yeah, that's cool as shit. I didn't know that the inspiration was behind horror creatures, which is awesome because that's something that sits deep in my heart where I love.
Yeah. I just figured there should be a. There's this fly just zooming around. Anyway, I figured there should be an essence of horror to it, especially since I knew I'd be doing weird niche rap sounds, kind of fringing towards horrorcore without going all the way into it a lot. Because We Skeem aesthetically as a music style was always designed to be weird and not necessarily appealing. Yeah, dude, it's a big boy. He's been here for like 3 days. We had our well pump replaced, and he snuck in during that. And I don't know how he's still alive because it's been several days, but he's a big boy. He's chilling. I've tried to let him out. I'm like, I know you don't want to be here. Like,
it's the beauty of having a cat in this room. I had a wasp in here for like 2 days, and she caught it yesterday. And I was like, I don't have to fucking see that motherfucker anymore. Yeah. Fucking panic in my face when it flies near me when I'm trying to live stream.
There's a lot of spiders down here. I'm surprised this fly is still hanging. He's a beast.
Oh yeah, my ceiling is covered in spiders.
Anyway, we'll ignore him.
Yeah, anyway, ADHD moment over.
The fly's gonna keep coming. So.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. I love it. He wants to be part of the podcast too. He wants to tell his story.
He does. He is Fly Skeem.
Fly Skeem. He has a little mask too. I've seen it.
Yeah.
When's the next punk rock album coming out?
You guys got all the punk rock that you're gonna get from me in full album form.
Damn
I feel like I did everything I wanted to in that genre.
Those are some of my favorite songs you've ever put out.
Yeah, I enjoyed those 2 albums. I just recently announced the first like true We Skeem album is coming out, and it's the first one since like 2021 really, because 2021 was the After the Tone album that kind of derailed a lot of what I was doing with We Skeem with the story around that album. And then, I did Artificial, which was more of an Art Deco video project than a regular We Skeem album. And then the other things have been After the Tone projects. Huh?
It was a fun one, though. It was cool to watch.
Yeah, it was a challenge. But I'm, now 3 years later, I'm like, all right, I'll do another actual We Skeem album. And I think there's one song that I'm finishing up that's fairly pop punk, so that'll have to be your fill. There's
Damn
one song
it.
in the new album.
I had to ask because I know I see a lot of comments too of people wanting more of it, and I'm like,
yeah, people really like the pop punk stuff, but it's like, how much can I do with it? It's this point, it's kind of like a Blink-182 cover band, and I did like 20 something songs, and I really enjoyed those songs, and I don't want to like push it. There's a lot of pop punk influence in the After the Tone music I make as well. It's just softer,
which is fun too. I think the thing with that is you're either fully that and just that, or you just dip your toe in, make your thing, and then just exit gracefully. Because otherwise you get stuck within that. There's a lot of genres and things that you get stuck within, it seems like, and once that is part of your identity with music, it's really hard to leave it. And I think that's what you don't want.
I'm okay if I was in like a main genre and like doing a lot in that genre. Just for me, I think the biggest issue with me doing pop punk is so much of it always requires a lot of assistance on the instrumental side. Getting a lot of people to help me where I'm not great with guitar riffs or stuff like that or drums. And a lot of the creative process ends up being like out of my control. And so a lot of it kind of feels more like glorified karaoke to me. Like, I'm not the kind of guy that likes rapping over other people's beats or singing over other people's instrumentals. And even if I'm making the core of the song and just having someone else help, there's a reason I was never in a lot of bands. I like to be able to create everything from the ground up whenever I can. And I could step outside of that, clearly, because, those albums have very little that I fully made. But it's not where I would want to stay.
Right.
And if I could make pop punk music on my own better, maybe I would have done it more, but I don't really want to learn that genre. It's kind of dated as a genre. I enjoyed what I did with it, and I'm just kind of like, I'll visit it again, but I don't think it'll be a main focus for me.
Right. You are also a person, like you said, who you just enjoy fully being part of the process of making everything within your catalog, right? So you're
Yeah, I just like the creation of it. That's the whole point.
so that one of my questions I have on this long list of questions for you is, what is your creative process? Do you get ideas for an instrumental first? Do you get ideas for like a song theme first? Like where does your writing stem from?
Yes.
Is it a combination of like a little bit of everything? You get an idea with one thing and then go from there?
Yeah, it just depends. It could start with lyrics, it could start with a melody, it could start with an instrumental. It just depends. There's no like set way. Sometimes I'll want to write a song about something and I'll write a song about it. Sometimes I'll be fiddling on guitar and I'll run into something that I like how it sounds, or piano, and then I'll build a song around that. So there's not a set way that I do things. It's just however it happens, it happens.
You let the creativity flow through you when it comes.
Yeah, I try not to force it.
That's a beautiful way to do it, because there's so many people who will just sit and try to write like a song, and I don't think that works.
Well, and they'll be fairly successful too. If you're a lot more formulaic about it and intentional, you'll be able to appeal to a wider audience for sure. So there's a good argument for being intentional, strategic, having a pattern. Because when you don't, you get much more into fringe, niche, and experimental genres, which is kind of where I exist most of the time as a result, which is, that's just what I like to do. But it's not going to be what most people like to listen to. And so it really depends, what are your goals? What are you doing it for? A lot of people, their goals are, anyone who's doing it and publishing it has goals of making a living off of it and certain elements of how big do you want to be. But it's just, what is the priority? Is the only priority the money and the fame? Well, then you're going to be a lot more structured and strategic. If that's just one of the priorities, then that structure and strategy starts to fall further down the list. But the further down the list, the prioritization of fame and money goes, the further from you fame and money go as well. So I don't knock anyone who's a lot more intentional, strategic, and structured in what they make, because I know that just means their goals are more focused on money and notoriety, which I think are fair goals to have.
Right, and it exists within that of, there are plenty of people who that works for as well, but there are some people who it does not. Right? Like,
for sure.
If like you exist within that, it would probably drive you nuts to have to I have to pump out a song every couple months. And I have to make sure that
unless someone's giving me like millions of dollars guaranteed for that,
true.
I'd rather have a corporate job, honestly, because for like a corporate job or something, it's just like, well, who cares? But if my music has to be tarnished like that, you got to be paying me retirement money every month, kind of thing. And in this industry, it's so oversaturated. There's no guarantee for that. So it just hasn't been worth it for me to pursue music in such a clinical way, because the risk of that is fairly high. Of it, you still don't go anywhere, especially at my age. So there's a high risk that even if you do it the right way, you just don't get the luck that's needed, because at the end of the day, every artist is lying to you if they deny the luck factor. So you could do everything right and just not get the luck you need. And then what, at the end of 2 or 3 years of doing this, you look back and you go, I've now made the one thing that I was the most passionate about into a job I don't like, and I didn't even get anything out of it. And that's not a risk that's worth it to me. I'd rather just, vibe with what I do, and if it fails, at least I haven't hurt my love for music in the process. And again, I'd rather sell my soul to a corporate job than destroy what I like the most. Even if I'm like, there's a higher chance that I could be successful if I was more clinical about it. But again, I'm like, you give me a guarantee that I'm set for life and my kids are set, I'll bite the bullet and do music I don't like for a while, but without that guarantee, it just doesn't make sense for me to do. But that's just my personal thing. I don't think that's like a hard and fast rule.
Right. And I think it's also comes down to, there are so many people in this world who can exist within that and just do that. and get, like you said, luck into those situations. They don't pop up for everybody, which is unfortunate because there are people who do deserve a life like that where the music is the main thing, like you, like Nick, like so many others, where it's just like, if that was your only thing and that was your big thing and you were like one of the biggest artists in the world, it would be beautiful. But that's not, like you said, part of doing this is, a massive part of doing this is getting that luck, is getting that little piece of something to appeal to the masses that just rockets you somewhere. And
I think one of the biggest ways that as an artist you can kind of see that yourself as well is how much advanced analytics exists now. And you can look and, people will gas you up in comments or live streams, but that doesn't mean anything. What matters is the stats behind the scenes, So I look at things to kind of check myself to see if anything I'm doing is worth a damn, like outside of my own bias. And there's certain things that I'll see that I'll kind of like know. I'm like, all right, at least I know what I'm making that I like isn't shit, because I'll see things like the average person who listens to my tracks are listening to 4 to 8 songs a month if they listen to me, which is, almost an album's worth for the average viewer. So it's like the people who listen really like it. And then, I'll send songs anonymously to people who don't know me, see what they think about it. And it's like, I'll get like somewhere between a 6 and 8 out of 10 on most songs. And it's like, okay, so I'm making stuff that's decent, even to like a stranger. And as long as, I keep checking myself to make sure I'm not just making shit. And then it's just like, okay, so you're not making shit. But, I've always found the artists who are the most realistic with themselves know that if they get to the top, it's because, there's a good deal of luck. They got seen by the right people and the right people liked them, and it just kind of started that snowball. And it's not to take away from their own skill and talent. The thing is, artists get caught up on that. They're like, no, it's because I work so hard. I'm so skilled and talented. I'm like, well, what you have to consider is so did thousands of people you've never heard of. They were just as talented, if not more, and they worked just as hard, if not harder than you. They didn't get the last thing that you did, which was luck. Bo Burnham's an artist I really respect because he's talked about that in great length. About the fact that it's like, and he's tried to humble other celebrities. Like, you don't understand. Like, there's so many Bo Burnhams out there. I just was the lucky one, and that's so true. Also, I just noticed your Taylor Swift shirt. Shout out,
$1
billion lady.
I have gotten some cool shit from. So there was a top 0.01% of her listeners got some limited edition merch through Spotify, and I was one of them because I've been.
Look at you, top 1% Swiftie.
I was one of the first fans of Taylor Swift. I remember getting because I used to be the guy in school who would make mixtapes for everybody. So I was kind of. You
were sneaking Taylor Swift into all the mixtapes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I remember before she got famous, this name started coming up in country. And I was like, who is this person? And I really liked her music. I have her first 2 albums autographed by her behind me.
Nice.
And so yeah, I've been a massive Taylor Swift fan for her entire career.
Shout out.
It's really
I'm not a massive fan, but I'm not a hater. She's had some albums I really liked. And then I don't like country, so all of her early stuff is out the door for me. And then her recent 3, which are really like slow vibe synth pop. There's only been a couple songs from each of those I've liked, but I just respect the hell out of the hustle, the songwriting. Even though her lyrics kind of are goofy, she knows what she's doing with them. It's similar to the ways I feel about Tom MacDonald. Just I have a bit more respect for Taylor Swift than Tom MacDonald because of the way she's done it.
I'll talk about Tom all day. I have a lot of his shit behind me too. I almost wore his shirt too. That's funny.
Yeah. But I like both of their hustle.
Yeah.
I like. I respect a lot of what they've done. I think what's funny with Taylor Swift is. Her biggest issue are her own fans.
True.
Rather than her. I think a lot of people hate Taylor Swift because of her fans, and they don't realize that they're hating the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it that Taylor doesn't, like, stop her fans, but she doesn't make them do this either,
Yep.
Anyway.
My favorite topic recently of Taylor Swift was Andrew Schultz going to one of her shows, knowing basically nothing about her, and having so much respect for the amount of effort and craftsmanship she puts into every single show that she does. And it's something that I think not just artists, but people who do anything creative can learn from, to always just put not even 100% more than that into everything you do and put something out that you enjoy and love, because that's what she does at the end of the day. And
yeah, putting on a show is important. Like, you know, she doesn't half-ass it.
Yeah.
So.
And even back to what we were kind of talking about before this is the artistry. When someone truly cares about the music, you hear the difference, and even if it's subconsciously hearing that difference, a person will always gravitate to an artist like her, like Jelly Roll, who really put everything of themselves within the music, and you feel the difference. And that's something I feel from your music, I feel from Nick's music, I feel from other people like Gatsby and all these other people, where it's just like, you know,
whenever Gatsby releases.
Yeah, I know he hasn't released in a while, and I'm sad about it. But it's you feel that difference. Like, you can feel when it's forced and when it's not, and it makes a huge difference. Which is, I
could talk about artists where it feels forced, but I'm not.
Most of mainstream right now. Most of mainstream rap.
No, I'm thinking about some independent. I'm thinking about some indie artists right now that are forced, but I'm not gonna.
We're not going into beef? Damn it.
No. I'm not a, for how controversial I tend to be in these circles, I'm not really a beef starter. It's just I say stuff and people try to start stuff with me, and I'm like, I didn't say anything except for the truth. I'm sorry you don't like someone holding up the mirror.
See, if we were in opposite positions, I'd be making diss tracks all week. Because I love the art of battle and the art of fighting, because, like, where my music came up is I grew up within battle circles, and then I kind of conquered everything in my area, and then I just stopped making music.
Yeah, I've always found battle rap to be interesting. My biggest experience with it was in college. And, most of the people that had issues with me never really tried to do diss records on me, because it would just be a weird look, because I say in all of my songs that my rap is satirical, right? So going after me is kind of, you already lost. So most people who have issues with me just will tweet at me or be in my comment sections, because they know making a track on me only makes them look bad. The few times that people did make diss tracks on me, they didn't really feel worth a response. Usually they got a breakdown video instead of me kind of just making fun of them.
Which is also just the best way to win.
I think the only two like non-satirical diss tracks that are in my discography. There was one about Dax, but it wasn't a diss. It was more like a fatherly rebuttal.
I remember that, and that's one of my favorite things you've ever done, because it felt so personal and petty, but also just
it wasn't
cool
like,
and artistic.
I didn't ever diss him. I didn't diss him at all. I just said, look, man, I'm kind of worried about you.
Right.
Like,
which also, shout out to Dax. I like Dax as an artist. I think he can be. I think he has had some piece of shit moments within his career, but he's getting better.
I haven't really kept up with Daniel these days, but
he's doing good. He's on some weird. He's on the weird Christian crazy route right now, and
that doesn't surprise me. He was very preachy when I talked to him in DMs back then too. That was one of the reasons I did the song I did. But anyway, the songs that I've done that are like legitimate disses. Only half of a song was one of them, and that was about Screw, and it was only for like not even half the song. And then a diss track on myself. Those are like the only actual disses I've done. Everything else has been like satire or whatever. I've had people diss me. I've had people mention me in songs a lot. And it's just, I don't know. I like battle rap. I like the idea of it. But I've never, for me, like, unless we're at a competition, like what I used to do in Long Beach was freestyle competitions.
Which are so much fun.
Unless, like, I'm in a competitive space, like, where there's brackets and we're freestyle dissing each other, and it's obviously about the sport. When it's, like, rap beef, I'm like, I feel like I have to actually have beef with you. You getting mad at me for saying something online that's probably true about yourself that you didn't like is not rap beef. And if you try to turn it into that, that's just... there's a lot of clout chasing. We all have to clout chase and when we're in this industry, but it's just that's a version of clout chasing that's just not interesting to me usually. So I've only gotten involved in that if there was real beef, which is why there's a diss against myself, because I have real beef with myself. And that's why the second half of that one song was against Screw, because I had actual beef with Screw and Mumfu because they talked about my family. But yeah, most of these other kids are just people that got mad at a reaction I did, or they didn't even make a song. Like Knox Hill did a breakdown of, or a whole thing on me when he first was introduced to me because I said his fast rap was bad. So he did a whole video trying to bait me into dissing him. And that didn't work. We ended up becoming friends instead, so that backfired.
That's hilarious. That's kind of how it works, though, with some, because it's you also exist within that. Like you said, you're such a satirical person that it doesn't it just rolls off of you, and I could tell. So it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't care, right? Like when people get upset because I say that this song that was released was bad, or that they sucked themselves if they sent a song to me, I'm like, that sucked. And they get mad about that. I'm like, listen, there's a couple of reasons why I don't care that you're mad about that. One, just because I don't care. And two, like, you don't have a reason to be as upset as you are. Grow a pair. You can disagree with what I say. I don't care. Right? But being upset that I said it tells me more about you than it does about me.
Yep, and I think especially within the rap space, those kind of people who just get butthurt over absolutely fucking everything that you say and do, especially within the reaction community, because there's plenty of those artists who people just stay away from because they will block your videos, they'll comment on them, they'll talk shit about you because you reacted to their thing, whether it's negative or positive, because they don't want to hear the fucking backfire. But when you're in this space, you're a public figure. You're always going to be present and here for anything anyone has to say on the internet whenever they want. You are signing yourself up for that, whether you know it or not. That is part of this space, and you have to have a thick skin, especially in rap.
Delete your socials and shut the fuck up if you don't like it.
Yeah, get somebody else to do your social media and shit, and don't talk about it. Like, don't worry about it. Like, there's plenty of people who do that. There's people who are successful who do that, who can't handle the criticism. One of them, who is one of my heroes.
You're speaking about rap beef. I will say one of the few rap beefs I ever acknowledged quite literally ended this little YouTuber's career. It was real weird.
Tell me about this.
So some kid came into a live stream. The live stream, literally in the title, was brutally honest reviews of your music. That was the title. So the whole shtick of this was, you're an indie artist, you send it to me, I'm going to tear you a new asshole, right? I'm going to give you the Simon Cowell treatment. Unless it's, like, really good. But most indie artists suck. Like, if most of the music I've made, I would tear a new asshole. Like, I'd say 7 out of 10 songs I've made, I could tell you all of the things about it that are shit. It's tough. As an independent artist, because you don't have a team of people in your ears helping you refine it or make it better, or maybe you're just inexperienced as a musician, whatever it is. But anyway, the whole premise of this stream is I'm going to roast your shit so that you either just get sad or get better or laugh about it. Who cares? Whatever you're wanting to get from that, that's what's going to happen.
Right, you're signing up for it. It's in the fucking label. Let's go.
It's in the title. Okay, It's not hidden at all. And if you're in the stream, you're hearing what I'm saying. This kid sends a song. And it was just, it was pretty goofy. He tried to do double time syllable speed. It didn't work. I called him Hillbilly Eminem. 'Cause that's kind of where he was.
That's a good one.
And he does a whole ass diss track on me from that. And the diss track was not good. And usually I would just ignore it. But instead, I made a commentary video on his diss. I didn't even have a camera. I just played his diss, paused it, talked about it, made fun of it, moved on. It became the second most viewed video on his channel because I showed it attention.
Oh my
right?
God.
So then he felt the clout in the air. So he did a follow-up diss, which I opted not to respond to. It was even worse than the first one. I just left a comment on the video itself. I think the comment was, my advice is make better music. And then I just left it at that. That one was, dead and lost. He didn't get the views that he got because I didn't put it on my channel. I didn't acknowledge it. And that was 4 years ago, and he has not uploaded since.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I felt kind of bad. I wasn't trying to ruin him that much, but I mean,
Right.
he kind of did it to himself. So.
Right, but also you're signing up for it. Because I know the streams you're talking about. I remember lurking in some of those where it's like, though you definitely gave the Simon Cowell where it was like, yeah, that person probably going to take that real heavy to heart. But I always look at stuff like that. Like, I'm a person who, I need that. I need someone to tell me, hey, you're fucking up. You need to fucking... That's why me and Nick are friends.
Here's the thing. Everybody needs that. And if you can't handle that...
You become
then...
Kanye.
Yeah. Sure. I guess, yeah.
That's what I was telling Nick. That's what me and Nick were talking about. It's like, you need someone to check you. Otherwise, you say some racist shit on a podcast and get canceled like Kanye.
I mean, yeah, echo chambers, they're not good long-term solutions.
No, you need someone to be like, hey, this isn't working. You need to go this way. I remember having the
I
conversation
mean, hell,
with Nick forever ago.
You've mentioned Namson a few times, Nick. This man was still talking about spitting venom in his rhymes before Todd and I bullied him.
Yeah, I was in that same route with him. Cause
he was like, I'm spitting venom with my blood, and me and Todd just bullied the shit out of him. He didn't release a song for like 4 months, and then he came back, and then he was actually making music after that. Like, sometimes you just need a good bullying to fix yourself.
Yeah, I remember we've both had the experience. He was in him and one of his best friends are two of my best friends in the world. They're literally brothers to me, closer than my own family. Had an intervention with me when I was quite literally trying to drink myself to death and kill myself. And then I remember Nick released a song that was much more artistic and less lyrical miracle. And there was a conversation had between us where I was like, dude, you need to do more of this and you need to sit and think where your sound wants to go because the other shit's not working. And then he started slowly going into the route where he is now. And now I'm like, you're in the best place you've ever been. Everything you've been dropping is amazing. Like, your sound's better.
Much, much improved.
Your sound's much better. The song he was working on recently, I don't know if he's released it yet, that he's been working on stream recently, this is like the best song he's made, I think, ever. Like, it's so good. And I'm like,
it's good to see him, not do spiritual miracle rap.
Yeah, because I was like, yes, you have the ability and the skill to do that, but I can tell your heart's not in it, which is making it not sound as good as it could. Like, make the music you want to make. It's the end of the day, and it is working for him, and I love that. I love to watch him grow as his friend. It's so awesome to see it, which is a beautiful thing to see. But back to the rap beef. Can you explain what the fuck happened with this recent one? Because I don't know.
What recent one?
The one where you
Knox
got involved in.
I didn't mean to get involved.
So just tell you. I don't. What do you know about everything leading up to your involvement, if anything? Because it seems like not everyone knows.
I don't know a lot. I don't know what started Screw and Knox going at each other. My understanding is Screw started it, which that sounds about par for the course. Mm-hmm. Screw usually will just throw sublims at someone for like 6 songs until they talk back so that Screw can claim that they started it.
That's and then make it about race depending about who it's about, but that's...
Yeah. Screw's typical strategy through these things that I've seen over the years, he'll do a bunch of sublims about someone, they'll make a diss track, and then when he inevitably loses the back and forth, he'll be like, I didn't even want this beef, they started it because they're racist. That's usually where it goes. So I'm assuming it was that again. It looks like that's what happened again. I'm surprised Knox even went for it because he's not usually... whatever Screw said must have really ticked Knox off.
So I remember...
He's ignored a lot more than he's addressed.
True. I remember Knox...
In any case...
doing a live stream and talking about Screw said something and he felt like he had to respond, but I didn't know what it was. And then a couple days later, something dropped where he had dissed Screw directly. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is where we are.
So I'm not usually like, in the know of things. I keep to myself, unless I want to be involved. And Screw is someone I just generally don't want to be involved with. That's been the case since 2019 when I saw a lot of stuff about him that made me very not comfortable being around him. 2021's when I did my half diss track on him because he mentioned my family, and so I mentioned that I had seen things about him, and then he conveniently stopped talking about me after that.
Makes sense.
It's kind of one of those, like, I know that you know, so I'm just going to say it. You know, it's not something that I've got a bunch of receipts for because I just saw it real time kind of thing. And, but I'm like, I know that you know. So I know if I say it, you'll know what it is. And I made a whole video about this recently because what had happened is Knox clipped my video from when I talk about that part in my own song about Screw. And he did it in some bars talking about rumors. Knox was talking about rumors he'd heard about. He did a play on rumors and groomers. So he's like, I've heard some rumors about you liking them young kind of thing. And then my masked self comes up when he's saying that as, like, you know, a basis for some of these rumors, like just doing an example of here's what, and people got super confused because a lot of people just don't know who I am because I haven't been involved in that space for 3 years. And then the people who do know who I am weren't sure why I was there because, again, that was a song and video that was really kind of like me to Screw, with my audience being part of it for the entertainment because they'd seen the beef on Twitter. But it wasn't like meant to start a beef. It was really meant to make sure Screw wouldn't entertain a beef with me, right? It was really me saying, I know too much about you for you to want to do this with me. And I think the message was received by him fairly well at the time because he just dropped it. He didn't tweet about me anymore. It was over. And so it got brought to light again, and just all of the people's different takes about what was going on. It just seemed like a bad look for everyone involved. Like, because either they were like overextending what the allegations were, or they were misunderstanding it, or they thought Knox and I had beef, or there's just so much stuff. So I just put a video on my secondary channel where I was just like, this is what it is. I don't care about this. I'm not trying to get involved. I'm not mad at Knox because obviously my video is already public, so he can use it if he wants. And obviously, you know, I've seen what I've seen. I don't like Screw. I don't mess with Screw. I don't talk about Screw, you know. And so that's what that video covers, and just me once again saying, you know, if this gets brought up, I've said what I wanted to say in that video. That will stay on the internet. You can watch that.
Right. You want the breakdown? Go over there. It's yeah, I have also heard some things, and I'm like, that was when I can't remember. It was during somebody's beef with him where some things came out on Twitter. And I had talked to some people.
Yeah, I've heard that
it.
One of the reasons Nerdcore turned on him so quickly when he started beefing is they found out about some of this stuff too.
Yeah. It was specifically,
and that's why he started getting really aggressive with the Nerdcore community, because they were doing a lot more digging than the YouTube rap community did. They were doing a lot more like pressing, like, wait a minute, what the hell? And so he started dissing.
Oh yeah, there was like whole text channels and stuff with him that were put on Twitter forever ago about it. So it was like, that's when I kind of knew. I was like, okay, this person's not a person I care about. Nor did I really. I wasn't a fan of his anyway.
The thing with Screw, and like a lot of people have been mad about like me because of what I've said. You know, basically they're like, oh, that's a serious allegation. Like, for one, it's not even a criminal allegation that I've made.
No.
Because the age of consent in Nebraska is 16. Right? So I've not made a criminal allegation against Screw once. I've just said what I saw is weird. And people are like, well, do you have receipts? I'm like, no, because I saw it as it was happening in a Discord server. I wasn't like in some sort of like, I've got to get Screw, let me get these receipts. It was just like, what the fuck am I seeing this person sharing right now? And then very quickly, everything got deleted. You know, like everyone was like, nope.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, I know what I saw. Could it have been like some hoax from someone who had it out for Screw? Sure. But based on everything else I've seen around this guy, the fact that the context of this, there was no reason for this person to be creating a hoax, because they were excited about what they were sharing. They weren't like trying to expose him. I just like, I've seen enough. I know a lot of the other stuff this guy does that's scummy. I know this. It's just like, no. And a lot of people have been like, for years, being like, why don't you try to dig in or find receipts or report him? I'm like, first of all, there's nothing to report him for from what I've seen. Because again, it's not illegal shit. It's just weird shit. And secondly,
it's just creepy.
I don't care. I don't know if this makes sense. I don't care to prove it to anyone because I saw it. Right? And I don't care if people believe that I saw it. I just don't want involved in it. And I know that's kind of a different take than a lot of people would have. A lot of people have this big thing that they need to prove themselves. I'm like, I don't care because I'm not involved. The only time I got involved is because he talked about my family.
Right.
And I was just like, back off. Beyond that, I'm just like, I just don't want to be around someone like that. Pretty simple.
Yeah, and you can also...
It's not my business.
Yeah.
And it's not something I want.
And you can also tell by the way a person carries themselves the kind of person they are. And he's one of those people who has always been, before I'd seen those threads on Twitter, right? I always just, you know how when you just have a feeling about somebody that something's off, or like you don't fuck with that person? Like,
Yep.
I always had that feeling when I would, like, when he would pop up on my feed or I'd watch a video of, like, I don't like this person and I don't know why. And then when I saw all that stuff, I was like, makes sense.
Anyway, aside from Screw,
Yeah.
I'm good on that topic.
Yeah. So, speaking of rap beefs, though, what do you think of the Kendrick and Drake beef?
That was brutal. I think if Drake would have just not responded to Not Like Us, it would have felt closer to like a battle. But the Heart
True.
Part 6 made it a sweep.
Oh, yeah.
Because Family Matters was good, but it was just overshadowed instantly. Because like within 15 minutes, you get Meet the Grams.
Which is just like one of the craziest disses I've ever heard.
Family Matters was great. It's just he didn't let it breathe. It was chess, as they say, the cliche chess versus checkers. But I remember Not Like Us, I thought was a great vibe. A lot of crazy allegations, right? And you're just like, listen, we're not trying to prove any of this clearly. We're in the fun thick of rap before it's like, I hate everything about you. These are the rumors I've heard, so I'm going with it, right? And I was like, that's a great way to end the beef would have been right there. Because if Drake doesn't respond, Drake's saying, nah. And then it's like, ooh, it's all in this gray area. Who knows? And that would have been the perfect end of the beef. But Drake had to go and do the Heart Part 6. Which was the equivalent of Frank Reynolds from Always Sunny in Philadelphia writing the song, We Don't Like Diddling Kids. The man
So
outed
true.
himself when he was like, I don't like Millie Bobby Brown. Kendrick never mentioned Millie Bobby Brown in his diss. I don't know if you know, because I remember this was weird from years ago. Millie Bobby Brown, when she was 13 or 14, was in an interview.
And she was talking about how
and
they
she was
messaged
talking
all
about
the
her
time.
friendship with Drake.
Yeah. I know the
And
interview.
she said Drake gave her advice on boys and dating.
Yeah, which is
Drake was
fucking
31.
weird, dude.
So that alone is enough,
Yep.
right? Even if that's as far as it went, that's still inappropriate. You're a 31-year-old man giving a 14-year-old girl who is not your daughter dating advice.
Yep.
And when asked what kind of advice, she said, well, that stays in the text messages.
Which makes it creepier to me.
That's what Millie said.
Yeah.
Which means she'd already been trained that they weren't supposed to have these conversations.
Yep. That's
She'd
media
already been
training.
coached by Drake that these aren't conversations you talk about, which he has all of his women sign NDAs to date him. He's made out with underage women on stage. So I'm like, listen, we know you like them young. It seems like you like teenagers at least, which is better than pedophilia, I suppose.
True.
But once you're accused of that, you don't start naming names of people that weren't named. And you don't talk about, I'm too famous to be a pedophile. Like,
Yeah.
what? That's the opposite of how that works.
And the Epstein line, nobody ever compared him to Epstein. He compared himself to Epstein, which is the funniest
You
thing.
don't say, I knew you would call me a pedophile. Why would you know that's what they're going to say? You don't say, you only call me a pedophile because you were molested, which Kendrick was not molested. The entire point of his song was that his mom thought he was molested, but he wasn't.
And he says
so
it
you
in the
misunderstood.
song.
You misunderstood Kendrick's song because he was literally saying he wasn't molested. But even still, let's assume Kendrick's song was about being molested. You're saying the only reason you care about me touching kids is because you were touched as a kid is the craziest take I've ever heard. That whole song. Whenever I saw people defending Drake after that, I was like,
how?
you should be on a list
Yeah, for sure.
because that was atrocious.
Oh, yeah.
That was, you should have never released that, Drake. Like, because I was like, Kendrick's probably capping. Drake released the Heart Part 6. I was like, okay, no, Kendrick knows stuff. Because that is the exact response from someone who's guilty of everything he was accused of.
Yep.
Like, to the T. That was insane.
Oh, yeah. And just like the way he's been carrying himself in public, the way he's been talking about it on social media, the way he's been doing certain things.
Yeah,
it's like,
it would have been a better look to just it would have been a better look to just leave it alone and people could just hypothesize, I guess Drake likes him a little young, whatever. But no, now it's like really out there.
Which
The Drake's about it because of how he responded.
Which the Kendrick calling him a pedophile thing, works so well because of, like you said, the Millie Bobby Brown situation. The girl who he waited till she was 18 and then rented a whole restaurant for her to take her on a date. And like, you know, like it's very clear that you like them young, and you're quite literally doing the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. It's just you're going for teenagers, not 20-year-olds.
My favorite is he said, I never liked no high school girl, when he's got a literal song that has the bar, even in your high school pics, you were bad.
Yeah, I know the song.
I'm like, my guy, you can't just say you've never been about it when we already knew before Kendrick said anything that you were about young women. Like, we already knew you like teen girls. We already knew that. That's not like up for debate. It was known about you. What Kendrick did was say it was more malicious than a preference. That's all Kendrick added.
It was predatory.
Because nobody was mincing words about the age bracket Drake was into. He likes them in their teens. Okay. Kind of weird. Most states not illegal. Just kind of weird, right? You could have left it there, because that's already where it was before the beef. All Kendrick said is, it's more predatorial than that. And you had to go and say, I've never even liked a teenager. I'm like, bro, no! That wasn't up for debate.
Yeah,
That's
knew that
documented.
Yeah. You can't literally...
The only allegations you're supposed to be addressing are like the straight up grooming and predator ones. You can't go full send, oh, I've never even liked a teenager, when you've written songs about it. Sorry, it's just, I'm in a loop. It's crazy. The Heart Part 6,
I'm with you with it.
I do not understand how anyone cleared Drake to release that song.
Yeah, see, that was my thing. Does nobody love him who was there when that was
according to Kendrick, nobody loves him, so you know.
But like, was nobody on his team like, man, yeah, yo, man, that may not work, dude. Maybe we just not release that one. Like, nobody in his camp was like, Drake, man, listen.
Bro, the ratio on that on his own channel, the like to dislike, is crazy. The comment sections lit him up. It was not a diss track, it was a defense track, and it was the worst defense I've ever heard.
Yeah, it didn't.
That was
one thing. Defensive rap is fucking impossible. And especially for someone like Drake, who is not lyrically that good. Let's be honest here.
No, it's all about the vibes with Drake.
Yeah, he's in the big three. He's the worst rapper by far. There's no fucking arguing that. He's the bigger artist.
He just makes good songs.
Yeah, he's the bigger artist, and he knows how to get collaborations together and market those collaborations and get people together and make hits. That's what he does. He's the hit maker. That's his nickname within the rap space. Right? Him trying to rap and do that doesn't work. Especially
Family Matters,
when you're trying to defend
He pulled it off in Family Matters.
True. That's the best rapping he's ever done.
But yeah, I mean, Kendrick not responding to the Heart Part 6 was the final nail in the coffin.
And also,
if Kendrick responded to that, I think that would have helped Drake tremendously.
Yeah,
because it would have put some sort of validity to the Heart Part 6, but Kendrick just being like, nah, that was it. That wasn't even a nail in the coffin. That was someone got the drill and screws in the coffin.
Oh yeah, for sure. And also, just like, Not Like Us is the #1 song in the country right now.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a bop, dude. It's a bop. Good. That beat is ridiculous. And you know once it hurt him for sure when it came. Mustard on the beat, ho. And it's just like, oh, it's done. Like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, it's over. Good. It's over. It's done. Like, you got a person who...
Bam, 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 bam.
Yep. You got the person who quite literally helped make the West Coast sound to make your beat. And just
that
fucked
song,
him on it.
the thing is, like, the song is just a good song.
Oh, yeah. It sticks in your head.
Diss battle aside, it just fucking goes. People singing that in the songs, OV Ho and A minor are just stuck in your head.
Dude, it's like, it stays stuck in your head too. And then just like the people doing dances to it. People are doing it at strip clubs. Like, it's nuts.
For sure. So my passion music project outside of rap is my duo After the Tone with my girl Brittany. And her and I, like, you know, we come from different platitudes, right? She's like a cappella singer, tours the world with that, does a lot of Disney stuff. She's like really into hippie culture, you know, all of that. But the Drake Kendrick beef, even she was tuned into that, and she was just like, And she was like, Drake is just getting washed. And it was so funny, like, hearing her talk about rap stuff, because the only time she's ever talked about rap. And even she was just like, Drake shouldn't have been releasing these songs. She was like, the Heart Part 6. Well, I don't know what that was.
Yep.
And I was just like, man, when you have people, you know, I think that the court of public opinion, that, honestly, in my opinion, that matters the most in a rap beef is if it gets out of the rap circles, the people whose opinion matters the most are the people who aren't in the scene. I know that's against a lot of the grain, but I think at the end of the day, for like these rappers' career and stuff, that's who matters the most.
Yep.
And those people all said Drake got washed, right?
Yep.
And like, you look at high schoolers and middle schoolers, if you talk to teachers and shit, they're all like, oh yeah, all the kids in school don't listen to Drake now. And they've all, for the first time, listened to Kendrick, because Kendrick hasn't released something in their teen life.
No.
Right? Because it's been so many years.
He's been
so this is the first time they've ever even heard of Kendrick Lamar, really. And they're all like, oh, we fuck with this guy. Screw Drake. He's going to touch one of us. Like, it's crazy how the youth switched up on Drake.
Yeah, it is what, but like you said too, I knew it was past like the rap beef part of it when my father, who is 70 years old, in his 70s, is like, what's going on with this Drake and Kendrick guy?
Well,
who knows nothing about rap other than Tupac.
Bro,
he loves Tupac. That's the only rapper he will acknowledge.
This was so cool because the only time we've had beef this big in my lifetime was Pac and Biggie in the mid-90s. And I was too young to really appreciate that at the time. You know, I remembered seeing it like on the news because it was literally on the news. And so I remember like I would be watching like fucking cartoons because I was, you know, a lad. And they would be like, tonight on the 6 o'clock news, you know, rappers, blah, 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 you know, this. So it was like, it was huge. I'm like, this was fairly as catastrophic and notable as that was, which is just crazy to think. You know, I guess once every 30 years,
you get a good one.
You get one of like the most notable people in the rap scene actually beefing.
Yeah, it was
and
crazy.
Like real beef.
And it was also crazy how many people got involved.
Oh, yeah. And like, people got shot.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to issue my apology to J. Cole. I get it now.
I
called him such a bitch when he apologized.
Yeah, I did too. So I have a whole reaction that comes out this week of his Not Now, or his Might Delete Later. And I go in on him because I recorded that the day he dropped the apology and I was pissed. But to be honest, he won the beef because he was out of it. And
J. Cole, you know, the smartest thing he did was heed the advice he got on that phone call. When they're like, listen, you don't know what you're stepping into. Drake's about to die.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in Drake's camp. And J. Cole was like, got you.
Yeah, because multiple people have come forward and said him and Kendrick had a call, and definitely Kendrick told him, hey, I want you to know this is what's going to come out of this. These are the things that I'm going to say. If you want to be a part of that, cool.
My respect for him went way up. I was like, that was the wise move to bow out. To be like, you know what? Actually, I'm good. Yeah. Sorry, man.
Big Sean did too, because Sean was going to diss both of them. And then he just decided not to, because he said it, he was going to do it, and then didn't do nothing. He was like, you know what? He definitely found out some shit too. Yeah, this shit's crazy. Rick Ross, what are you doing? Have you heard the game's diss on him yet?
No.
It's really good, actually.
I stuck to the main story rather than the side quests.
I enjoyed the side quests. Yeah, because Rick Ross was saying some shit, and then Game was like, you want some beef? I'll give you some beef, motherfucker. And he went in on him.
Let him up.
Up. It was quite literally like, oh yeah, I forget the Game is like legit a really fucking good rapper.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's about it.
Yeah, and he's always ready for the smoke. Game don't give a fuck who it's with. He wants the smoke.
Oh, for sure.
He loves it. Other rap beef. Have you seen the Shaq and Shannon Sharp one?
Who?
Fucking football player. The dude who had the
Shaq
interview
is in beef with someone?
The dude who had the interview with Cat Williams at the beginning of the year. What the fuck's his name?
I don't know. The only time I remember Shaq dropping
so
beef
he dropped
on
a diss
someone
trap on this dude because this dude basically
the last time I saw
Shaq
Shaq drop a diss track was against Kobe.
Yeah, which was
way back when.
So yeah, if you want something fun to go through, Shaq goes in on him. And it's really good.
Gotta love Shaq, man.
Yeah, this happened like last week, and I thought
Shaq and I share a birthday, and when I was younger, I would always invite him to my birthday party.
That's
I was like, we both live in LA. Come on, man. He never showed up.
He's one of my dream people to just sit and have a conversation with.
Oh, yeah. One of these days, if I ever needed motivation to try really hard to get famous, it's so I can get Shaq at a birthday party.
For sure, that'd be sick.
Be like, let's just hang out, man.
There are like a handful of people who, not even like professionally, like I want to work with them. I just want to be friends with them. Shaq is one of them.
Yeah.
I just want to be
Shaq's a dude I just want to hang out with, man.
Him and DaBaby are like super close friends, and I'm like, that's a weird friendship.
But he likes rap and stuff. I just, Shaq's just a guy that just be like, I just want to sit down, chat with you, and be like, you're cool, man. See you later. Have a good life.
I just want him to tell me stories of all the pranks and crazy shit that happened during basketball.
All the weird shit he's done. Yeah.
I just love the dude to death, man, and he just seems like the most genuine, nice person in the world, and like just chill as fuck. Shout out Shaq. It's the homie. Shout out to both Shaqs. No Life Shaq too. He's a great guy. Motherfucker just keeps getting bigger in this space. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's the one.
Quite literally.
The one reactor to rule them all.
Yeah, he's like, he outviews everybody by like hundreds of thousands. It's crazy.
No Life Shaq has kept the momentum. It's crazy what he's been able to do.
It's interesting to watch from like, I have always sat, like my YouTube career started way earlier than yours. I started making YouTube and then I became a manager for YouTube channels for like 7 years. So I know what it takes to keep that momentum going once you're past the 1 million sub mark, right? He has kept that wave going for so long, and it just keeps getting bigger, and it is impressive to watch.
Well, I mean, No Life Shaq did something, that's kind of can be an endless resource by making sure he can always ride the trends without changing the content, which is like a double-edged sword, because you want the content to be consistent so people know what they're getting, but you need to ride trends. And a lot of times the trends switch what the content's going to be, and then if the content changes too much, people don't like it because it's not what they came for. But with reaction content, you could do both. The thing that made, Shaq sustain so much better is he always kind of had a quicker awareness of what things to move on from in the reaction space. Like, he'd be like 3 or 4 months ahead of, okay, people don't care about reactions to this anymore, when those things were still getting views. But he kind of I don't know how he senses it out, but he'd always kind of sense like when the vibe was just beginning to dip, and he would move to something else before it had even plateaued, because then he was the first one to the next thing. And so when he was the first one to start reacting to it, then once it started to peak, everyone was looking to him to be the expert in it. And doing this over and over and always being ahead of the curve, always knowing what was going to be the big thing and what was falling out of favor, this got him noticed by bigger artists. And once bigger artists start to shout you out and labels start to work with you, then you're in, right?
Yep.
And so Shaq's biggest success from me looking at it was his foresight was impeccable. He's always known when to quit giving something attention and what's going to be buzzing. And then you just add to that he's just a likable personality, and you're there. And so, yeah, I've enjoyed watching how No Life Shaq has kind of has figured this out. Knox is similarly, to a smaller degree, kind of figured out that same thing. Knox's biggest selling point tends to be that he tries to be encyclopedic about things. So it's like, if you want to know what a song means, you go watch Knox. Now there's a lot of I know there's a lot of controversy over, well, is he even reacting to stuff when he breaks it down this much? I would say when it comes to Knox, I'm like, does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
I feel like if I'm going to watch Knox, it's because I want to know everything about a song. Yep. I don't care if he's watched it 1,000 times beforehand. He packages that breakdown in a way that's a lot more interesting than reading genius.com. So for me, it really wouldn't matter if he's reacting to it for the first time or not. Like, if all the facial expressions are like, oh my God, is all an act, who cares? It's entertainment. What I would care about in a Knox Hill reaction is the breakdown, and those are impeccable. And I think that's kind of what's helped him build, is he's so consistent about being just very, like I said, encyclopedic about it.
Yeah, so this was something I wanted to bring up since we're talking about this. You and Knox are the reason I got into reactions. And the reason was, too like Knox is one of those people who just outside of reactions has this such deep well of knowledge, like you said, encyclopedic of rap. From like beginning to end, he just knows so much about it, and he'll point out
he's
things
in love
that
with
people,
the culture.
Yeah, he'll point out things that people don't even notice. Like, I'm not as nowhere near as much knowledge as he has, but I have a lot of that too. Like, I remember specifically on one of my most recent reactions, there is a bar from Joyner Lucas's new album where he talks about something that happened when I was a kid, where a 50s band toured with a rap group, and he mentions it in a bar, and Nick's like, I don't even know who that person is. I'm like, this is what that reference is. It's one of those things that if you don't know, you're never going to catch it. It's such a niche little tiny thing that if you weren't there, you don't even know it exists.
Yep.
But it's like, so him having that, being able to talk about things and break things down the way he does, I always watch his reactions after I do a reaction, if he's reacted to the same thing, to see what he says. And I've noticed a lot that sometimes we will match up quite a bit on things, but he would just have such a better way of articulating it and have just so much more knowledge and catch these little tiny things where I'm like, man, that's cool.
I've always found like the art of reactions, like that people take into account, interesting, because I never wanted to do reactions, and I just kind of got like thrust into it. Because everyone, like, what happened is there was a large there was a large Instagram group chat that I was involved in the early days. And whenever we would talk about songs and stuff, I would give my takes, and people were like, you really should do reactions. Like, your takes on stuff are really interesting. And I was just like, oh, that's not really what I'm here for. But, you know, they eventually, like, pushed me into it. And it's interesting because over the years, I've had a lot of people like being like, "Oh, you know, I've had multiple YouTubers say that, you know, I was taking their reaction style or watching other people's stuff." And for me, that's always been very strange because of how how little effort I've put into it. If we're being frank, like, I don't go around studying how other people react because I don't enjoy reaction content. I don't watch it. Like, what I know about how Shaq moves isn't because I'm watching No Life Shaq's videos, is because I've seen his thumbnail, so I know what trends he's followed.
Yep.
I'm not sitting there watching it, but I know where he's moving, right? So I've been kind of able to see the progress. Knox, I've watched a few of his live streams and a couple of his things when I'm curious, but it's like I don't watch this as my content. What I watch on YouTube is video game content, Lord of the Rings geek content, like I don't watch reaction content. I watch, you know, Moist Critical, except when he's reacting. I don't watch that because I feel like I don't dislike the concept of it. It just does nothing for me. Like, I feel like reactions is either to feel like you're watching stuff you like with a buddy, or to get extra context or knowledge about something, or just some sort of, you're curious what other people think about this thing that you like, right? That's reaction content in a nutshell. So I understand the economy for it and the desire for it. I'm just not part of the audience that's targeted. And so I would hate nothing more than to study or learn how to do this better. I just, you know, if I feel like reacting to something, I do. That's just what comes out. And so it's so interesting. Even my non-reaction content, I did a reactor tier list, where I did a tier list of reactors just for a fucking joke. And I got someone like doing a whole like 2-hour live stream dissing me because that was his idea. I was like, I don't know who you are. How is that an original
also,
idea?
Who cares? It's like such a...
It's a tier list.
Yeah, everybody does tier lists.
You think that? I'm like going through YouTube, like, what? And I'm like, oh, a tier list of reactors? Pfft, that's a... Like, bro, no.
I bet I've done like 500 tier lists on live stream. Like,
I'm just like, all right. So it's just weird stuff like that. Being in the reactor space has been very interesting because when I was in other creation spaces, because I've been creating on YouTube since YouTube started, just under different names.
Same.
The reaction space, ironically, is the only space I've had so many people accuse me of stealing their stuff. And I'm like, that's very ironic because you're a reactor. We're all just kind of stealing people's stuff to a different degree. And whenever I've done other stuff, even if it's been accidentally similar to other people's stuff, nobody, those creators are just like, okay, ideas overlap. That's going to happen. But reactors have been so protective of this stuff, and so many reactors I've never heard of will either be in my DMs or messaging people like, he's stealing your reaction. Like, how do you steal someone's reaction? What is happening?
Yeah.
And so, like, the masked version of myself really tapered off of reactions fairly quickly, aside from ERB, just because I hated the community. I hated that these people were acting like... I hated the fact that apparently a lot of reactors were stealing reactions from other people, which I'm like, you're already stealing the content. Yeah. You really can't even think of a way to react yourself. You have to watch someone else react and react the way... That's fucking goofy. I don't want anything to do with it.
I can tell you a story about that. When one of my biggest reactions was a John Mayer reaction to one of his songs. And I go on a specific rant that is very personal to me, and it was a story about something that happened in my life that related to the song.
And then someone else had the same story.
3 different people. I was sent
3
different reactors. Bigger than me. Much bigger than me. Like, way bigger than me. Closer to your size of channel. Had that exact same story. Word for word.
Maybe it was this... I don't know, man.
It was about like a traumatic thing that happened to me in my life. It was a story. And I was like...
This is why my reactions are mostly live stream clips at this point on my other channel. Because I just got so disenfranchised and jaded with everything to do with it. I didn't like a lot of the fans that I would get introduced to, like, because if I said something... If I didn't like the content the right way, people would be mad. If I disliked the content, I was just like... I don't care about people being mad at me, but it has to be something that's worthwhile for me to for me to do it. Like if people get mad at me on an ERB reaction, I'm fine because I enjoy doing it. But when I'm reacting to stuff that I'm already like, I don't really care, and then people are getting mad at me, I'm like, that's not worth it. So yeah, my reaction content definitely moved to even lower effort than it started, and it already started pretty low effort. The only high effort reaction you'll see from me is the few times a year ERB uploads. You'll see me
which are my favorite ones that you do. And ERB's hard to react to because their community's crazy.
ERB community is an interesting bunch.
They either fucking hate you or they love you. That's really with reactions.
It's very interesting.
And I'm not in the love portion. Every time I've done ERB, it was bad.
ERB community is very interesting because there's a lot of nerdcore community in there.
True.
So they it's been very interesting to watch like their love-hate relationship with me. They think that I'm like a evil. A lot of them think I'm a supervillain. They think that I'm like a evil, conservative, transphobic monster for some reason. I'm still not fully sure where all that comes from, but it's funny to watch. And it's just been interesting, like, because I'm in, like, the ERB Discord because I've been a Patreon supporter ever since my channel got monetized. I decided I would stay a supporter of theirs since ERB is what got me monetized. I'd be a patron of theirs as long as my channel stayed monetized. And I've continued to do that for the last 4 or so years. Because, I mean, they're the reason that I blew up. Like, I don't have any sort of, like, disillusionment about that. ERB is what people know me for, and that's fine by me because I loved ERB, like... When I found them years ago, Hitler versus Vader was what I saw of theirs first, and I was sold from then. And I've gotten the chance to like meet Pete and Lloyd, and like awesome. I talk to Lloyd in DMs, every now and then on Instagram and stuff. He's the one who I have more of a relationship with. Pete, I've only kind of talked informally, but Lloyd, we've talked and stuff, and so it's just been really cool for me. And it's funny because Lloyd and I have talked, and he's like, "Yeah, our community is." They're a tenacious bunch, I think is how he put it. And, they just try to stay out of all the drama, and, like, they've shown me nothing but love throughout it. And, Pete actually got fairly involved in me designing the Subpar Rap Battles of YouTube series.
That's fun.
Because when I was talking about making that, Pete had all these ideas of how to make it fun, and he loved the idea of just, like, because there's a lot of clone ERBs out there, but I was like, I don't want to just do clone ERB. I want to make it intentionally bad, but still good. And so like the cardboard title card came from a suggestion Pete had.
Which is one of my favorite things about those, because I thought it was so fucking funny, because it really sets your expectations immediately. It's like, oh yeah, we're not like an ERB. This is not it. Yep.
Cardboard.
But it also reminds me of like a Casey Neistat fucking title card, because he does that shit too, where it's like, it doesn't have to be the biggest quality shit in the world. It just has to be fun.
Just have fun with it. Yeah. And so I've loved everything about like, even the weird parts of the ERB community. I've just had fun with it. Like every now and then I'll check in their Discord and see if they've been talking shit, because they talk shit about me a lot in there. And I'll just like reply to someone at random. And then they all like freak out for a few minutes, and then I just leave.
That's funny. That's so fucking funny.
It's just funny to me because, I think I would be bothered if like the negative stuff they said about me had like truth to it.
Right.
But it just seems like a bunch of like they're young. So it's just, I remember being that age. And once you like decide something about someone, you just go with it. So I've enjoyed the weird relationship I have with the ERB community. I love making ERB content, and I'm going to, keep doing it. And for the most part, people have been fairly positive of me. Lloyd finally, after years, publicly decided that I can officially call myself the official reaction channel of Epic Rap Battles of History.
I saw that. It made me happy. It made me really happy.
I was like, we got there.
Because
the first time I was like, can I be the official channel? That was in like 2020. And he was like, that makes everyone else the unofficial channel. I don't think we could do that. Fast forward to 2024, he's like, fuck it, you could be the official channel. I'm like, yes!
Yeah, because Lloyd's the one I follow the most. Mostly because outside of ERB, his music and his rapping ability is crazy. He's so
traditional West Coast, and I enjoy it.
Underrated.
Even though he's from the East Coast, he raps like sound. Traditional West Coast.
Yeah, he has that West Coast sound, and it's like he is so
Which is
underrated.
funny because I'm like, he's from the East Coast, from what I understand. But he raps like a West Coast rapper.
He raps like he was born in Compton. He really does.
I've always found that interesting because I'm fairly certain his background is in the East Coast, but his rapping certainly isn't.
One day I'll have him on here and ask him. But yeah, he's one of those artists that sits on the top of my list for underrated artists. It's like he is so underrated.
I found out some stuff about Lloyd for a video I'm going to make on him at some point, probably near when they release their next ERB is when I'm going to time it. Because I have this little series I do every now and then called We Unmask, and I kind of give like little satirical biopics on people where I'm half making fun of them and half applauding them, because that's the We Skeem thing to do. Fun. So I have one on Lloyd I've been setting up. And I reached out to Lloyd to be like, all right, what are some weird things about your musical past that like no one knows? So I got a bunch of interesting tidbits about Lloyd that are not very well known that'll be in that video.
I mean, the fact that people don't know that he was like crazy good at gymnastics is hilarious to me.
I went the musical angle.
That's
some music projects he has.
That's fun. I'm very curious.
Known.
That's fun. Yeah, I also love learning things like that about people. It's always because everybody has some weird shit in their past where you're like, huh? You did what?
Yeah, it's a good time. So I was gonna have it come out around the time that they released Godzilla vs. Kong, but it just wasn't close enough to being done. So I was just like, I'm just shelving this until the next ERB comes out, which I know what the next one is. I'm not gonna say it because I'm not, supposed to know. Kind of.
Right, I understand.
Fucking
cool though.
I don't know when it comes out. I probably could find out. I just haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, and with that, one of my questions to you was, who's the worst rap community? Who's the worst reaction community that you've dealt with? Because I'll give you a couple examples of people who I don't like reacting to because of their communities. Tom McDonald.
Oh, you're talking about the worst bands and stuff to react to.
Yeah. Tom McDonald's one
but
of my
there's a
big
number
ones.
one. There's a number one, and it's not close.
Who's your number one?
I've experienced a lot of torturous communities, but there is one that stands out amongst the crowd, significantly so, and I don't think you could beat them. And if you've never reacted to them, you wouldn't understand. But that community is Nightwish.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. Don't find out. I used to have a bunch of communities that were like in battle for who's the worst. Nightwish is so far beyond everything else that I don't know if I'll ever find anything as bad as Nightwish. They made like Taylor Swift fans seem reasonable. They've made every fan base that I've been really harsh on seem a lot more reasonable in comparison. But who are your worsts?
One of mine is definitely Tom McDonald, but it's mostly because I see the satire in like 90% of what he does, and I talk about it like that. And
well, his audience doesn't understand that it's satire.
Yeah.
They're
and it's
too
those
stupid
people who are like, and I'm like, and they still, and the funny thing is those are the people who comment on like every fucking video that even if it's not
and you know
Tom
their
McDonald.
ages and occupations too.
Yeah, and it's like, what the fuck?
I'll tell you this: Tom
person.
McDonald fans, I consider fairly reasonable in the large scheme of things.
Yeah, they
I've
don't like
experienced.
me for sure, but it also, I sit way far away from their political views and their religious views.
Well,
So
they all hate me
fucking
now.
hate
They used to like me. They used to like me, but I got kind of jaded with Tom getting more generic over time. Like I used to like what Tom did.
Same.
I still like Tom as a person, but I used to like the music he did because it was fairly purposeful. It was watered down, sure, but it was fun and it was purposeful. But he just kind of got in a rut of he knew what made him money and it just the heart was out of it. And so I just started kind of talking about that. So his fans turned on me, but again, they're a lot more reasonable than a lot of fan bases.
Yeah, and I see where they're coming from, and it's like, well, it's always funny too, because it's like, the Dax fans don't like me, but it's more recent Dax fans. Like I said, he's on his Christian preacher. He's literally he's being a preacher. Yeah, he's being a preacher basically, and I'm not Christian. I'm a modern Norse pagan. So people hear that and think Satanist, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's not. I don't even believe in Satan. Like, what do you mean? Which is also why I wear the horns. That was my nickname forever.
Bible thumpers hear the word pagan and they think that means like devil, but pagan just means spiritual religion that's not Christianity. Really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hilarious to me. And I'm just like, I don't even care. Like, I grew up Catholic, so much so that I was almost a priest. That's how brainwashed I was by the Catholic religion. But like, so people like, I understand Christianity and the belief system and everything. I have no problem with the belief. I have a problem with the church. That's always been my thing. Your belief system and shit, I don't care. I think it's awesome if you have faith and that drives you. Awesome, cool. Don't hate on me because I don't. I hate that shit. But like, I haven't ran into like a truly like hateful, toxic fan base. I've ran into like annoying fan bases.
So Nightwish is both. That's the special spirit of them. Nightwish is a fan base. They're metal. They're a symphonic metal band, and they're a band that's gone through a few lead singers, which is important to the context because even within their own fan base, they fight each other over which singer was better. And like, if you believe that the old singer is better instead of the new singer, it's like on-site war between these fans. So within the fan base, they hate each other
annoying.
Already, which is crazy. Then, as far as reactions, I have seen Nightwish fans attack reactors specifically for not liking the song the right way.
Oh, that's horrible.
They said you liked the song, but you didn't like it in the way that you should have. Literally, that's what they comment on unironically. This fan is... And the other thing is, I don't know if it's a language barrier thing, because I believe they're Finnish. So I don't know if some of this is just lost in translation when they're commenting on YouTube. But if it's not like a lost in translation thing, they're also very, very stupid. Like violently stupid.
Oh,
but
wow.
I try to think that might be the language thing where it just translates weird. But I've also spoken with some Nightwish fans that I know are fully fluent, and they're also kind of... Not to mention, psychology would support that they're dumb, because the more of a super fan you are, the less intelligent you are. We've verified that through science, which is my favorite experiments of the recent era. In the last several years, there have been a lot of clinical studies done on super fandom, whether it be of celebrity worship, musician, whatever. Like, you know, when you have idol worship, is there a relationship to intelligence? And the answer is like overwhelmingly yes. Now, the only thing is causation. What we don't know is, does being an idol worship person make you dumb, or do dumb people enjoy?
Do they fall into it more?
Idols?
Interesting. I mean, knowing what I know about psychology, it would seem like it would be the latter, because you're more prone to that. Because
that's what I would think too. But there's also
but I don't know.
That's kind of where my instinct goes. But then there's also cases of people who you know, like at least anecdotally, you've seen someone who seemed like they were more sharp-witted, then they got like obsessed with like a musician or a politician, and all of a sudden it's like they seem to get dumber.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I always, that is interesting. You have my brain going with that. That's crazy.
Right? So
I'll
I'm
be
like,
thinking
I don't
about that shit
know
for a
if
little
I'm
bit.
so confident because I've seen anecdotally people who used to be intelligent people, at least I thought they were, who get really attached to someone they idolize, and now they don't have a single individual thought or intelligent thought. They're just fully hive-minded. And I'm like, I think it might be a little of both. So more research required, but I do just find it the correlation is interesting, because I think the correlation is something we all kind of instinctively knew, but it's fun to see it scientifically verified.
Right. I'm sending this to my fiance, who's currently getting her master's in psychology, and I'm gonna ask her about it. Be like, what do you think of this? Because she'll probably have some insight into it more, and I
was supposed to go down that road. I had my master's thesis and doctoral dissertation mapped out, like the roadmap of where I was going to go. I had involved in it were going to be theoretical physicists and mathematicians, which is an odd thing with psychology, but it was all going to make sense in the end.
Well, she has her master's and going for her doctorate currently, I should say. She just got her master's this semester, at the end of the semester.
And like they were like all hyped about, this is way back when, because it's been over 10 years since I was in college, but they were all hyped about like, okay, we got this plan. We're going to be breaking some new boundaries on because we were going to be testing some cool stuff that I think they have finally actually started to get into in some psychology circles. So I think they finally ended up doing what I was going to do a decade ago. But I was just curious of the relationship between extra-dimensional physics and the brain. And there are kind of some ways we could try to measure that. And I just wanted to kind of see, are we looking at the mind-soul problem incorrectly? Because we've kind of like just had two camps where it's either that's just the neurological makeup or there's something that's the soul, which is non-physical and kind of gets into spirituality. I was like, well, what if it's neither of those? What if it is physical makeup that we just can't measure in three-dimensional space? You know, we can see how photons of light are interrupted by extra-dimensional space. Could it not be that our neurological makeup is also interrupted by extra-dimensional space to some capacity? Not necessarily that you would have to define it as a soul, but that you could define that our neurology does not only operate in this space, which would explain the entire human populace explaining things that are usually neurologically inexplicable. Like out-of-body experiences or weird connections or those kind of eighth sense sort of experiences that have been shared through all of human history and every culture. There's something there that we clearly don't understand neurologically. So could it be because we can't see it? So that was kind of like the premise of this whole thing. And I had a theoretical physicist and high-end mathematicians who were going to help with the formula part of it. And then we were going to use, the guy named Dr. Runyon was going to help me with the neurological part of it, of doing like functional fMRI testing and using mathematical equations to see if we could better predict neurological behavior with a math formula than with our understood psychology. And if at any point you can start to better predict neurological behavior with the math formulas that are accounting for extra-dimensional space, you've at least given a reasonable cause that it's plausible that extra-dimensional physics play a role in neurology. Now, I think I just ended up hating school. That's why I didn't pursue it.
That's why I didn't go to college. School. Well, more than I did.
And so I was like, I'm good. Graduated. Not going to do the master's and doctorate. Much to their chagrin and disappointment, by the way. They were not happy, and they tried to rope me back in. I was like, nope, see ya. And I didn't see any published works on that concept for like a decade, I think.
I know,
but I finally started to see some people in the community talk about that, which makes me happy that at least someone else had that thought and decided to study it.
I almost had a master. I had enough schooling to have had a master's in mathematics, and I just never finished. I needed a semester, and I was just like, and the only reason was because one, I was very good at math, and it just works. My brain just works with it differently. And two was like, I fucking hated school, and that was the only thing that I didn't dislike about schooling. So I took those classes to basically just kill time and be like, I'll figure it out when I get there, and then never fucking finished it. I was like, no, there's nothing I am interested enough that requires a degree, so I don't care, and I just never finished.
I feel that school and I just didn't get along, because I was just looking at the thing that ended up turning me off to it was the time commitment, the money, and I was gonna the pathway they drew for me to get to where I was like, I don't want to really do therapy, I just want to study people. And they're like, well, here's the thing. For you to get to the point where you're just studying people and doing these experiments on extra-dimensional space and all that, you need to have a foundation in the clinical and cognitive counseling side. So they're going to have me get my master's in clinical counseling and then get my doctorate in more of just general psychology, so that I would be able to have a basically repertoire of both, because they did play with each other a lot, since there was a lot of like individualized kind of experimentation involved in what I was going to do. So that you should probably have the counseling foundation and all that. And I was just like, no.
Best answer
I don't have
ever.
patience with people like that. I'm out.
Yeah, I feel that.
So yeah, but I'm just glad that over 10 years later, I finally, because I like to read. I'm a loser. I like to read psychology articles as they come out. I still have like some of the access. I still kept some of the access logins that they never turned off from my college to read like recently published scholarly journals and articles that come like straight from the universities before.
So
some
you'll go and
mainstream
check
media
and see what
outlet
everybody's
misinterprets it. Well, you know, all these mainstream media outlets get access to it and then really misinterpret the study when they publish their headline. So I like to find the actual studies and read those, so I know what's actually being studied, because I'm a loser. That's what I do for fun. But okay, I finally started to see.
I'm the same, but with archaeological discoveries and dissertations.
There you go.
So that was the thing I was going to go to college for. I finally started to see
this stuff. I finally started to see this stuff talked about recently, which has made me happy, because now I'm like, okay, I definitely don't have to go back to school in my 40s, because at least someone else is looking into this.
Yeah.
Took them long enough.
Yeah, it also goes with theoretical physics, which is just, there's so much.
Well, as theoretical physics has gotten more popular, I think that's why this happened. Like, because back then it was still, I mean, it's still popular. It's not like it wasn't. As odd as this is to say, I think it's true, but I think shows like The Big Bang Theory and Rick and Morty made the next generation that went to college more interested.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In that, and that's probably what accelerated more people asking the questions that I was back then, because it was popular within academia, but it wasn't really super mainstream popular until those shows that I remember anyway. I don't remember a lot of mainstream popularity around string theory and M theory or multidimensional theory until those shows kind of popularized it and mainstreamed it. So then you have to imagine, if that's what you watched when you were in middle school or high school, then when you get to college, you're more curious about it. Mm-hmm. And then it makes it a lot more likely that studies happen on it, rather than just someone like me sitting in my dorm room thinking about stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And going, I wonder if these two relate, because it all was sparked by one of my friends who is a math major. And he was talking to me about like how he's like, you know, that we've kind of like established that there's almost certainly multiple dimensions with math. And I was like, tell me more. I'm curious. And we just had several hours of conversation about this. And, you know, as a psych person, I was like, do you realize, I understand you're saying that this is just physics, it's just particles and would have nothing to do with like us. I'm like, but what if it could?
Yeah.
Like, what if, I was like, our neurology is really confusing. What if our neurology acted more similarly to gravity and light than we realize? Because then these things would absolutely matter. And that's kind of what sparked it, was just by happenstance, I met a passionate math major and I just applied it where it's not supposed to be applied. I mean, I remember for years seeing anytime someone started to bring it up later on, everyone's like, no, M theory physics doesn't relate to the brain. That's a misunderstanding of extra-dimensional physics. And it's only been until recently that people are like, well, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe there's something there. Anyway, this is the worst part of your podcast.
No,
ever.
well, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
the worst part for some people, the best part for me, because it's because these are things that I also am interested in, and same thing, read about, and I'm also of that nerd core of like, that is part of my core being of existing within conversations like this. because I am passionate.
Yeah, that's
about
the
it.
tism in me coming out.
Same. Yeah, like I said, I was the same with. Very similar with archaeology and astrophysics, where like I still actively read astrophysics papers and archaeological discoveries and stuff because it fascinates me, and those are the things that I was interested in back then. Still am. It's never going to end.
No, I love geeking out about stuff, but then I have to remember, especially in a context like this, this is not entertainment for other people.
Like I said, it's entertaining for some people, not all, but people who have that same passion for things and who have those same interests are going to love it. And also it shows a side of you that you don't see a lot, which is interesting. I never knew any of this about you, which is fascinating to me.
You know, I'm just a little emotism boy with a crazy persona.
Your persona is hilarious, though. But your persona and the way you are with your things was the reason that, like I said, Knox was one of them, but you were the biggest one because you, like me and Nick and so many others, are so unapologetically yourself and say your truth and what your beliefs are and stuff without caring. And that was something that I saw and was like, this is the kind of person I am in general. And knowing that that could exist within a reaction space inspired me to become that person.
Yeah. I try to avoid having my own truths though where I can. I have my opinions and I speak what I know to be true.
Oh, yeah. There are plenty of things like within reactions.
I try to not have
rants.
Yeah, I try to not have like truths that I define as important because it's what I believe. You know, I feel like my truth, like when I hear my truth or your truth, I think of those concepts as like, if something's my truth, it's something that I'm like, I passionately believe this, whether or not circumstantial evidence supports it. It's just what I believe, which is fine to have. I just know as a person, I don't have that. I'm far too agnostic in my core to have like my truths. For me, it's I live off of whatever evidence I have, and so I have my understood beliefs about the world based on evidence, and I know the limitation of likelihood based on how much or how little evidence exists for that, and then I have my opinions from there. So I think there's very few things that I have my truth is what I understand that term to be. Not that I have anything against people who like speak their truth or have their truth. I just don't think that's I don't think that captures the way I speak on things, because I think if there's something, which I can't think of anything right now where it would be like my truth, but I think if there is something where I feel that way, I would relegate it quickly to an opinion. A good example of that is something that's not super deep would be like the God of War game series, and I'm going somewhere with this. God of War game series. You got me curious. Highly revered series. People love it.
First three games
upper
are
echelon, and then they made and then they made the new ones, right? The new ones that are even more highly regarded. I dislike all of those games.
Even the new ones?
I've tried. Even the new ones. Like, they bore me, and I stop them. Now, I think if I had my truth would be all of the reasons that those games are actually not good. Right? My truth would be, these are the things about the pacing that other people just don't understand. These are the things about the button mashing that other people just haven't conceptualized. So my truth is the games are bad. But I don't really live that way. So the way I would talk about God of War is, I don't like the games because I'm wrong. That's literally how I will say it. Like, okay. I am wrong to not like these games. I could see the overwhelming evidence suggest that these aren't games that people just dick ride. They're not just winning a popularity contest. The overwhelming evidence is these games are phenomenal. And me not liking them is something that just doesn't work for me. That's my fault. I've got the wrong opinion, but it's my opinion. That's literally how I address things in life across the board. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like the opposite of someone who has like my truth, because I'm like, I don't give a fuck what my truth is, because my truth is shit. I care about what does the evidence suggest to me, and I try to base beliefs off of that. And if my opinions don't line up with the evidence, then my opinions are wrong, even if I still hold them. So while I still hold that I don't like God of War, I will tell you that my opinion on that game is incorrect, because it's got to be a good game. I'm just wrong about it.
It's interesting. You have me on 2 points now. When I think of the truth thing, it's the same as you. I think of most people sit on the opinionated side of telling their truths, and that's where we get like political opinions and opinions on rap beef and opinions on people where they're just so opinionated and biased towards a certain side. That is a lot of people's truth. The truth I mean more than anything really is what you said. It's not so much the truth. It's more of looking at evidence, getting what you gain out of it, and saying what your understanding of a certain topic is where that's where I sit with things as well, and I know that's where you sit with them, and that's the interesting thing about you to me is the way you do that, because you can look at it.
I think I guess semantically I would just kind of phrase that more of me just being blunt and
that's
honest.
true. Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because the way you did the God of War thing is like you can see it from the outside, which a lot of people can't do when they're so deep within something, reviewing something, talking about something. Whereas they're such a big fan of the thing that they can't see the flaws with it. I'm a massive fan of God of War. Like, I have the fucking super rare collector's edition of fucking Ragnarok behind me. And I don't even own a PS5, and that's a PS5 copy. Which
I
is
enjoyed
hilarious.
throwing the hammer thing.
It's cool.
That
Yeah.
was fun.
But it's like, I am the same way where, like, I love the God of War series. I love the newer games significantly more, and I relate to them more because the story of the original 3 games is basically just him shooting himself in the foot over and over and being a piece of shit for the entire 3 games and just murdering everybody and damning an entire fucking realm of people that no one ever talks about that.
Kratos was not the good guy.
No, he's the bad guy. He's objectively the bad guy in the entire series. He literally destroyed the entire Greek pantheon and doomed those people. And set off a chain reaction in all the other realms. Which is
just absolutely irredeemably selfish.
Yep. Which he learns about and is growing past in the newer games, which is a cool thing. But my issues with the newer games are pacing, and I don't think it is necessary to make the game so impossibly difficult. Because they're leaning so much.
I didn't in what little I played, I didn't find it
What
difficult.
difficulty did you
That's
play
not
on?
what turned me off. But I don't know. I don't mind difficulty when it's fair. If that makes sense.
Well,
I like the challenge.
The higher difficulties you play on, there are certain things that they do to you to make it more difficult. You have auto hit moves, and you will sometimes parry, and they will auto hit you no matter what. And so it just like there are unfair advantages they give to the NPCs.
So see, that's when
way.
I don't like. That's why I don't like difficulty. I think there's a lot of creators that make hard games, but they're lazy hard. One series that, this will be a controversial opinion amongst fans of this series, but this is something that I think would not be my personal bias. This is their personal bias kind of thing. The Dark Souls and like Elden Ring games.
I knew you were going here.
I loved Elden Ring. Don't get me wrong, but the difficulty parts of that game aren't satisfying because it's not like, it gives you a false sense of accomplishment. But what it really is just tedious, right? You have to memorize the hitbox patterns of these bosses. You have to memorize their fight animations so you know when to dodge. You have to memorize really convoluted systems of what armor actually works with other armor, because if you just put on armor, it's not going to do shit. You have to fucking find lore that has no background to it and go through a inventory system that's deliberately difficult to navigate so that you can't heal quickly and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's just deliberately clumsy to make the game harder. But I'm like, if you want to make a game hard, I want it to be more earned by the game. I don't want the enemies to just have health bars that exhaust you, because it will just literally take you 30 minutes to kill this boss if you fight it right. That to me is just like, it's just trying to wear you out. Is there difficulty to that? Sure. Is it fair? Not really. Is it fun? That's subjective. I don't find it fun. I prefer when games are difficult from a much more like you have to outsmart the game kind of a perspective, rather than you have to out-endure the game.
Like Metal Gear Solid, where once you figure out a strategy, the AI changes and you can't use that strategy anymore.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a fucking fun way to make it difficult.
Because like I like difficulty. I just I don't like difficulty that feels tedious or just like opportunistic or mean-spirited, because I'm just like I'm not a masochist, And I think there's a lot of masochist tendencies to games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I still love Elden Ring. Don't get me wrong.
It's a great game.
I fucking love it. But I love it for the universe and the environment. I didn't feel satisfied in the challenge of it, right? When I beat the game, I didn't feel accomplished. A lot of people feel accomplished. I'm like, I didn't accomplish anything. I just memorized hit patterns. There was I didn't have to think about it. I just had to memorize it. It had to be muscle memory, and I had to do it so many times that I figured it out. I'm like, that doesn't feel like an accomplishment to me. I feel more accomplished solving a Legend of Zelda puzzle than I do memorizing when to smash a button. You know, but that's, anyway, all that aside.
Yeah, I like games that have a good bit of difficulty with very good game mechanics and storytelling. My most recent games that have sat within that, which I'm currently playing through, are the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games. Those are fun. The way that the way they made the enemies, the combat system, everything is so much fun. I like Fallen Order better. Survivor's too big. I don't need a game that big. I feel like the storytelling falls off a lot because there's so much to do. The actual main story kind of takes a back seat, whereas in the first one, the main story is the focus, and then the rest of the world is just there if you want to explore it. Which is my only issue with it currently, but I still haven't finished Survivor. I think I'm like halfway through or something. So much fun.
I haven't played that one, so.
It's good. My only issue with it is if you're going to play it, don't play it on PC. It's so badly optimized.
It's broken on PC. Then I'm not going to play it for a while.
I have a 4080 Ti and a $7,000 gaming computer, and I cannot run it on medium settings without having issues.
I play Nintendo Switch or PC, so if it doesn't work on those, I just wait till it does.
Yeah, they have not optimized it yet, and I'm just like, it sucks because it's a great game, but it's so big. It's too big. It's my issue with Assassin's Creed games. Said. It's too big. It is what she said. Yeah, I don't know. I sit in the gaming space because I am the Twitch streamer after all. That's where it all ended up. Thanks, Nick, for throwing me down that path. It's his fault, if anyone wants to know.
Yeah, it's hard to consider me a modern gamer because I don't like almost anything that comes out in modern gaming. I don't either. Basically a retro gamer at this point.
I like. There hasn't been the Fallen Order series is the first AAA game series where I'm like, these are great games in like 5 years.
The only AAA games I like usually come from Nintendo at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Super Mario Wonder was fucking fantastic.
I still need to play that, man. Everybody keeps telling me.
Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, amazing. But
also
now, like once I go through those games, what am I playing right now? I'm back on Skyrim again. I got it on Nintendo Switch for the first time because I was like, I haven't played it on this platform yet.
I own it on like everything, and it's ridiculous.
I'm like, I've played it on Xbox 360 and PS3 and modded the shit out of it on PC, Nintendo Switch. Sure, I'll run Skyrim again.
Just for fun.
So, I just end up playing old games. I'm at that old man phase of my life. Of course, even like young kids are saying new games suck. So I guess maybe that isn't one of my old man tendencies that the industry might kind of suck.
Because the AAA games stopped caring. The studios stopped caring. Yeah. They're all for profit now.
Kind of like Hollywood kind of fucked up too.
Yeah. Hollywood's dying.
Because like a lot of stuff has been happening where like, I'm like, am I just getting old? Right? Because I'm just like, movies suck and games suck. I'm like, I guess I'm just getting old. But then I've seen like young people say, yeah, I only play old games and watch old movies because the new ones suck. I'm like, maybe that's not just me getting old. Maybe all these people just suck.
Because how old are you?
I'm on the wrong side of my 30s. I was born in the 80s.
Okay. I was born the year Tupac died, so.
Yeah, I'm not a young buck, that's for sure. I'm not like old, but I'm past, the mid-expiration date.
Yeah, it's... Definitely, there's not as much effort and care put into games as when we were young, for sure, right? But that...
Except if it's Nintendo.
True. But that sentiment is coming back because you have people like Phil Spencer who are buying up all these studios and being like, here, take your time with the game, do what you want to do, here's an endless bag of fucking money, do whatever the fuck you want, release it when it's done. And then you have people like PlayStation who are like, I don't care, just release it.
Or you have Ubisoft.
Or Ubisoft. Ubisoft has changed, though, too. Ubisoft is trying to actively change the way they're making games and take their time again like they used to because they have an
but then they're wanting to charge you $300 for a shitty game.
True. Speaking of Ubisoft, do you know about all the fucking controversy with the new Assassin's Creed?
No, I never cared about Assassin's Creed.
It's
What's the controversy?
hilarious. So the new Assassin's Creed is called Assassin's Creed Shadows. It takes place in feudal Japan. One of the main characters is the non-existent person who doesn't exist in history, assassin person who is going to be one of the main characters you play. The second main character you play, and she's a woman, one of them. That's important. Second main character is
Why is that important?
Is a real historical figure who was a slave who became a samurai and is very prolific within the history of Japan. And,
that's a cool story.
And he's a black guy.
Okay.
So the immediate reaction of the internet is you're making a game in Japan and you're putting a black guy in it. This is woke media agenda. F you. And then Japanese people came out and like, no, this is one of our historical figures and we respect him greatly and you will not talk shit about him.
Yeah, that's weird. I thought everyone wanted more representation from like real things. That sounds like exactly what people have asked for.
Mm-hmm. So then the conversation flipped to, why do we have a female assassin? This is bullshit. They could never stand a chance in a fight. I'm sorry.
Well, if you're good
this is the
if you're a good
female
assassin,
lead.
Listen, all I'm saying is if you're a good assassin,
doesn't matter,
and you have a weapon, you should be killing them before they see you.
Even within the trailer, at the beginning of the trailer, it shows her going up and trying to be the brute fighting thing and losing against a 3v1 because she's just outmatched.
Perfect.
And then at the end of the trailer, she becomes a ninja and is using stealth to her advantage and killing everybody. That makes sense.
What's the problem?
People just being crazy.
What's the problem there?
It's literally.
See, my problem is I just don't like Assassin's Creed games.
Right.
My problem is I don't like Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, which is fair. They're not.
It sounds to me like Ubisoft was trying to do like the right way of, hey, we want representation without it being stupid, and I'm always all for that.
My thing with it was, one, why did it have to become about race immediately? And two, the way I saw it.
Racist.
Yeah, that's true. The way I saw it was, there is this outsider who comes and learns to love the place where he was literally thrust into and falls in love with the culture and becomes a prolific figure within that culture. That's where I saw the story going and probably where it's going.
Isn't that the biggest win, right, for a culture?
Yeah, because it's literally showing how cool the culture is, so much so that this person becomes an important figure. Like, because he fell in love with the culture. That's cool. That's a cool story.
Listen, you know, as an ethnic man myself, despite it might not looking like it.
I mean, same.
I always find race issues weird. Would be the word.
I find it hilarious because it's choosing a point within your DNA that's like, that's who I am.
I am man. Okay, cool.
Like,
are you a good person?
Yeah, that's all I care about. Are you a good person? Do you hurt others? Cool. I don't fuck with you. Like,
people are lazy with their thoughts.
Yeah, it was just hilarious that it's like, it immediately became racist and then sexist, and it's like, yeah, I'm done with the internet. And the worst part, well, it didn't surprise me, is the mainstream media outlets were the ones who really fed it, and it was like, oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Y'all are pieces of shit.
Is the mainstream media trying to cause division? You're lying.
Oh no, that's their main. That they would never, even though that's their main.
They would never try to be divisive.
That's why I don't get I don't watch the news or read it. I hate it.
Yeah,
but it's just funny because I wanted to. My whole thing with it was like, for the first time since I was a kid, when Ezio was the main assassin in Assassin's Creed, I'm excited for an Assassin's Creed game. That trailer got me genuinely hyped to play an Assassin's Creed game.
Well, I'm glad you're hyped. Yeah. I don't care about Assassin's Creed, but I'm glad that you got the hype train.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think the games are fine. They have a lot of issues, and I've talked about them in nauseum. So
I'm not gonna yuck your yum. That series is not.
Oh, I am adamant that I like trash games. I mean, I play Call of Duty regularly still, so I'm. I just like pain.
Then that's a fair claim. Yeah, that's a fair claim. I used to like Call of Duty back like in the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3 days, and that's about it. Ubisoft, however you say it. I've liked I liked Far Cry 2, 3, and a little bit 4. And I think those are the only Ubisoft games I could think of that I liked.
I hated 4. Because 4 felt like it was...
I said a little bit.
Yeah, 4 just felt like a complete copy.
It was a step down from 3.
Yeah, it felt like a complete copy of 3, but a bad one.
It was fun, though. I will say
Far Cry 6
I can't say I
is in
enjoyed
my
Far
top
Cry
games.
5 because
was
graphically
horrible.
it was... Far Cry 5 was worse graphics than Far Cry 4, which is crazy.
It's worse than the Far Cry 3 remaster.
Yeah. And then didn't they make... Yeah, they made 6, because I think I played that. That was the one with
really
Gus
good.
from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, 6 is really good. The story for 6 is really good.
The story might be, I got, like...
It's the same gameplay.
I don't remember how far into it I was, but I was like, this is the same game again, and I stopped playing.
Yeah, that's my only issue with Far Cry, is they do the exact same game every single time. Which was my issue with Assassin's Creed for a long time, and now they're trying to change it, and everybody's mad about it. But, like, I like a lot of the games that people hate within Ubisoft. I think it's Ubisoft is the way you're supposed to say it. I don't know. But I like Watch Dogs. I like Watch Dogs 2. The newest one, Legion, was one of the worst games I've ever played in my life.
You can make sequels to a franchise that feel like the franchise without making the same game. And if you need to look to a studio to show you how, you look at Nintendo.
True.
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom completely rewrote what Zelda could be. Made some Zelda fans mad, but honestly, people who understand Zelda feel like this was a evolution for Zelda, not a betrayal of it.
When you were within the lore, you understand how
you look at Super Mario Wonder. They fixed their mistakes of remaking New Super Mario Brothers 10 times, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder finally was like, okay, now it's a Nintendo game again, where it still feels like Super Mario, but it's so different. Or you look at just random one-off games that they make in their 3D world. They made Bowser's Fury, like a really short 3D game that was just fucking phenomenal out of nowhere.
It was so fun. I want to replay that. Actually, I was just thinking about
Nintendo has mastered the art of games that feel familiar, but they're still new. That creativity's there, and it's because they're just not lazy.
True.
And I wish other studios were more like that, where you felt like, I don't want it doesn't have to be a totally different game, but have enough passion that it feels like there's a reason for me to get excited about it, you know?
Yep. I think one of the things, too, not even in their main IPs, Nintendo gives so much money to smaller creators. They will see a concept for a game and be like, that's a cool idea, and just be like, here's some money to create your game, just put it on Nintendo first. And then you have all these really cool things, like Cuphead is one of those games. Where it's just, they saw the idea and were like,
didn't Microsoft fund Cuphead originally?
Microsoft funded it after Nintendo reached into their pockets.
Okay.
And then Microsoft was like, we'll give you more money. And then they bought
Fair enough.
And
then
they
bought
the
bidding
IP.
war.
Yeah. So the indie group that originally made it originally developed it on Nintendo. Because Nintendo
That's how it came
it.
to the Switch so fast. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's why it came
So I
out
always
on the Switch
thought
first.
that port was interesting to see Cuphead on the Switch so quickly.
Yeah, because it was quite literally meant to come out on Nintendo first. It was developed on Nintendo, which is cool. But it's like there's so many games
developed for like the Wii U based on the timeline, and then the Wii U was junk, and Nintendo was running out of money, so Microsoft was able to steal it until the Switch.
Yeah. Did you see they officially announced that Switch 2 is happening and being announced later this year and released?
They officially announced it?
Nintendo officially said that there is a predecessor to the Switch coming at the end of the year.
Well, that's not a surprise. I thought they would release it May of next year, but maybe they're trying for a holiday release. Here's all I know.
I'm excited.
They need to just make it the Switch again, right? Like, we just need an upgrade. We don't want... Like, the Switch is too good for the current landscape to change it up too much. Because Nintendo likes to change things up. And it's like, this time maybe don't change too much.
Yeah.
But if they call it like the Switch 2 or any other dumb bullshit, I'll get it, I'm sure, but I won't be happy about it. If they call it the Super Nintendo Switch, I'm just going to buy 2. I don't even know what I'm doing with the second one.
You know what? I kind of agree with you. Yeah.
I just want to buy 2 to tell Nintendo this is what we want. Yeah. I want to give you more money.
A lot of people think it's going to be the Super Nintendo Switch. That's been like the big
this
one.
is only the second time in Nintendo's history that they've mentioned a console being an incremental upgrade. Yep. The last time they said that was Super Nintendo. Because when they went from NES to Super Nintendo, they said this will be an incremental upgrade from our prior console. And it was. The Super Nintendo was just a better version of the Nintendo. It was graphically more capable, but it was essentially the same kind of system with 4 extra buttons. You had your X, Y, and shoulder buttons. Yep. But it was the Nintendo again. when you look at their other consoles, they were like full on redesigns. Like Nintendo 64, sure, it was an upgrade, but it was like it brought 3D to the mix. It had an analog stick. It was totally different. GameCube was just trying to be a stronger system. So it's stronger than the PS2, but weaker than the Xbox.
Just a little sidebar. That's my favorite controller of all time. That's what I use to play everything. I love this controller.
Nintendo Wii was Nintendo being Nintendo and going, fuck it, we're making creative stuff. Nintendo Wii U was a Switch prototype. They weren't ready for it. And then the Switch, again, like just everyone's doing handheld consoles now because of the Switch. Like,
I have a Steam Deck, and I have it upgraded to... I bought the cheapest one, and I've just upgraded as new things have come out. I don't have the OLED screen yet. I need to do that. That's my last upgrade for it. But
if I had money for it, I'd probably get a Steam Deck. But the Switch, you know, that's my baby for now. It's literally like having a Switch that can play all of the other games that I wish were on Switch at like the highest quality. I would love a Steam Deck for sure. For sure. If I had the money for it, I'd grab a Steam Deck, and one of the first things I would do is get a Switch emulator on it so I could play my Switch games at higher frame rates and higher resolutions.
That's what I did. That's literally what I did. All my
literally would be just play the same games I've already bought. I just want to see them in higher resolution with a better frame rate.
Oh yeah.
Like
it is
right away.
It is so fun to do that.
Which is why I really hope whatever next Switch console comes out finds a way to pull off backwards compatibility. The problem is it's just going to be really hard because of the infrastructure of the Switch, that if it has backwards compatibility, it'll probably just have to emulate the original games, so they won't have any performance enhancements. So then it's like, I'm glad I get to keep my same games, but I would love for them to find a way in the architecture that it can actually do like what Xbox did, where it would upscale old games.
Yep.
But to pull that off in a handheld is like near impossible based on how wild the infrastructure is of the Switch. So I think if we get backwards compatibility, it's not going to be an enhancement of the old games, which is a bummer. We'd still have to use emulation for that.
I just wish when they do bring these, even when they do their emulation, they try to do it in-house, and then you realize that other emulators do it better. Just bite the bullet and partner with fucking Dolphin and just make it good.
Bro, they're the worst company for that kind of stuff. Nintendo hates everyone that loves their stuff.
Oh yeah, which
you
sucks,
know, for like, all the, they're great at making games, but they hate their audience.
Oh yeah, for sure. Is it they hate them?
I think
or
I
got
to get going here. I've hit my time.
Okay.
What is our last burning question?
My last burning question is the same question that will always be the last question within this space. The way my podcast exists is I want to sit and talk to interesting people and pick their brains and get to know them, right? But within that, the way that we get other guests is I like to propose the question of this. So my question to you is, who do you think I would have an interesting conversation with? And I want a minimum of 3 people, and it's 3 tiers. One that is a call out to a person. It could be a friend or a colleague who you know would say yes because you're calling them out. This is also going out as a clip like it did to you of like, hey, come on this podcast, have a good time. So pick their brain who I would have a decent conversation. 2 is somebody who's kind of like a shot in the dark, like an artist or somebody like we've reacted to, is like, maybe they would say yes, maybe they'll see it, but it's kind of like a eh. And then 3 would be just like a crazy person who's like a big star who's like, fuck it, why not? One day.
All right, so the realistic is Matt, aka PFV.
Oh hell yes.
Matt likes these kind of formats, and he's got a lot of interesting stuff to say.
I would love that. Big fan.
He actually needs to come down to my house here soon because we haven't hung out in way too long. So come to my house and talk to this guy or something. The mid tier, like it's not completely impossible, but still highly unlikely. I don't know. You seem to have a reason that you should hit up like Epic Lloyd. I think Lloyd
I would love that. Oh, I would pick his brain like crazy, and I also just
he's definitely in the realm of reachability but unlikelihood. So I feel like that's that second tier. As far as the pipe dream, I don't know if this is pipe dream because he seems to be down to earth, but I think it'd be interesting since you have so much love for hip hop culture to see you talk to Ren.
Ooh, yeah, that would be crazy. He fascinates me.
Yeah. I feel like he's got a lot of love for that culture too, so that'd be interesting. So there's my 3. That's what I think makes sense.
All right, all of you are invited at any point, but PFV specifically, to call out. hit me up. I'm gonna message you.
Matt.
I won't take as long as I took to message Skeem, in theory, if I'm not super busy. But 100% we'll be reaching out when this comes out. But with that being said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. This has been Desk Talk. He's been We Skeem. I've been Emmett Gray. It's been a hell of a time. I appreciate you coming on, and you're welcome back anytime. I still have a bunch of questions I didn't ask you.
Oh, well, we'll not talk video games and psychology next time. We can get to the other
No,
ones
absolutely.
next time you want me.
My bag is video games. I am a live streamer. But anyway, I'll see y'all in the next video. Ta-ta for now.
Can't be asleep when I'm awake. Trying to be happy, but it's fake. Something is just wrong with me. I have insomnia dreams. Close my eyes to see the dark. Sounds all around me will stop. Get up with thoughts I can't see. I have insomnia.